Also say it's important to monitor your judgment. You don't know what brought a person to sex work. You don't know what's keeping them there. So, understanding, like you said, we all live on the spectrum. Life is on the spectrum. It's not black and white, no matter how much they try to make it seem like you should be this or that. The reality of it is we all hit them times where, hey, you got to do what you want, what you have to do. I know a family member who dipped into sex work in order to make ends meet and to provide for their family. And so, it's one thing to sit around and judge them and say, hey, you're wrong for what you're doing, versus understanding where they're coming from. So the trash talking, I would say, quell that, versus, maybe having a sense of understanding.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, the next question, you actually kind of touched on it a little bit. You often hear about sex work, and then you hear about survival sex. What would you say are the difference and similarities with sex work versus survival sex?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it goes like what you were just saying. Like, you had a family member that needed money, and they did what they needed to do. I think it goes hand in hand. I think, if you're engaging in sex work and that is your option, there is a survival component to it. I mean, I think having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work a job that you hate is equally tedious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want people to know that, for the most part, in my own experience, like, we have options, of course, we have options. We can find a job somewhere and sure, but everyone that is engaging in sex work is doing it for their own reason, either to pay a habit, or to pay their mortgage, or to pay their child into school, or whatever. And that should not be of a question. And more so is like, are the resources available if someone wants to get out of sex work, you know what I'm saying, or being abused during sex work and all those kind of things, So there's a lot of stigma, and there's a lot of like ways that it can go, but it is the person's choice, and when it's not their choice is the concern for us, I believe.
Right. Another question is, how exactly does decriminalization of sex work make it safer for sex workers? Is it only preventing against violence against police officers or law enforcement, or how does it overall impact safety of sex workers?
So it's like multifaceted. So for most, I'm just speaking in my own experience, as a sex worker, I was afraid of the police. I was afraid of a sting operation and them kicking down your door and arresting you, and also victimizing you or assaulting you. And there's 1,000 stories, even some published stories here in Chicago, where police officers took advantage of sex workers that were being arrested, So yes, for me, it was really about the policing of my body. And then also the ramifications of it when you are being policed, losing your place, potentially losing your job if you had another job. But also, like, when you witness victimization elsewhere, when you get to the point like, oh my God, this person might be trafficked, or this one has a pimp that's abusing them. I want to call the police in a way that is like supportive, and I don't want to have to be answering questions like, well, are you a sex worker? Are you a prostitute? Are you things? And I just feel like alleviating that is just a lot easier, and if anybody that understands sex work, it's the policing that is the most brutal. It is not the clients for the most part. It's the policing of our bodies that is the most brutal of it all.
Now, in 2023, Maine was one of the states to partially decriminalize prostitution, which made it legal to sell sex, but illegal to buy sex. Is this similar to the bill that's being passed, or that's being presented to the Illinois government, or is there a difference?
Oh, there's a huge difference. So it seems like there's partial decrim, full decriminalization, and then the legalization of it. We are in the center of full decriminalization of sex work. So we believe partial decrim is there's still a criminal policing aspect to it, where okay, the sex worker who's getting the money won't be arrested, but the John or the client who's paying for it will or potentially can be arrested. And to us it just doesn't make sense to us. There's still a portion of the transaction that is still criminalized and still making us as the sex worker more subjected to policing ourselves. So yes, there's partial decrim. We are about full decriminalization. If you are a consenting adult engaging in transactional sex work, it should not be an arrestable offense.
One
Good
final
question.
question. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said that was a great question, though.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, audience member. If someone is curious about sex work, what would you recommend is their first step in doing it safely and legally?
Yeah, understand what part of the spectrum are you from? Are you on the OnlyFans where you're just, mutual, masturbation or feed or all that stuff? Kind of like find your niche of like, this is where I'm going, where I'm comfortable engaging. Once again, there's a spectrum, if it leads to the street and street sex work, I really need the person to be safe. I really need them to understand their surroundings. I really need them to understand, work as a team, find a partner that you are working on the streets with, and protection, however you decide to protect yourself, PrEP, condoms, but also like, just be aware of your surroundings, like I said, it goes back to options, if that is your option and that is your choice to engage into sex work, I do your research, ask questions for people that that are engaging, so you're minimizing your risk of a lot of things, so do your research, find someone that's engaging in either OnlyFans or doing cam work, or if they're engaging in as like an escort, find someone that's engaging and ask a lot of questions, do your research, and protect yourself.
I think we have another question.
No, I really don't have a question. I have a statement. Being involved in sex work, most of my sex work was survival sex work. It was an immediate need. It had nothing to do with prostitution. Prostitution is more of a choice. My sex work was survival. It was the immediate need. During my using drugs, it was the immediate need for maybe someone to sleep, immediate drug, or money for drugs. Prostitution is more of a choice. Most of the population that I deal with is the immediate need. Most of the men that I'm dealing with are not trying to pay a mortgage or a car note or a house note. It's for immediate need. Sex work can be demoralizing. The first time I got arrested in my life, I was 18 years old, and it was for prostitution. What they said in court, I was so embarrassed of how they labeled me. They went into details of what the sex act was. Now they kind of soften the blow as trafficking, or that's another word that they use. That it's not as harsh, but overall, when you're labeled as a prostitute or involved in sex work, it can be very challenging and demoralizing. A lot of sex workers, they might do it once or twice a month, the end of the month, or during a run where they're on a drug bench. If you take that immediate need out, a lot of these men won't even engage with the same sex. It's just the immediate need that separates survival sex and prostitution. Survival sex is what it is. Survival, immediate. Prostitution is more of a choice. Just from my experience in doing surveys with people, it's an immediate need, and prostitution is more of a choice.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that and your experience, and I really appreciate you sharing. So, I mean, really quickly, in your experience, that's great. For trans women who need some $100,000 worth of surgery, you're not gonna get it making $15 an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I call that survival sex work, I'll call it necessary sex work. And if I need $100,000 to get the surgeries that no one is gonna cover for me but the streets, and that's it. I'm just speaking for trans women. A lot of trans women engage into sex work because it's a massive amount of money in a short amount of time. And for the most part, it's to acquire a surgery that who's gonna pay a $50,000 SRS, you know what I'm saying? So I think all sex work in some way, even if you're paying your rent, is to survive, and it's all different degrees and variations, but, I just want people to be safe. I do. See, what happened if it was decriminalized? You never would have been arrested. You would have never been traumatized going through that experience because it's decriminalized. Yes, sometimes people feel degraded and it's to buy food for their kids and all these really hard things, but decriminalizing sex work in the state of Illinois removes. You wouldn't have to been arrested. You wouldn't have been traumatized through the process in the system and going to court and having it happen to me. We want to remove that. Sometimes it's hard for people to engage in sex work. There's a lot of things that are hard about it, and we want to minimize having to get arrested, having to go through the court system, having to have it on your background, and to potentially have traumatized you. We want to remove that, and that's what SWAG is. SWAG is the Sex Workers Advisory Group. We've been together for almost 4 years, and people, how can you support SWAG? How can we have conversations about decriminalizing? Talk to your alderman, talk to your state representative. How are they feeling about it? How do they feel? And then you want to talk about stigma. You're going to see some stuff. At least you experienced it. You're going to be talking to people that have never even thought about sex work, and now you're going to talk to them about decriminalization of sex work. It's like a whole different realm, but it's important to be open and is remember to your own personal experience. Talk to your alderman, talk to the people around you, to have conversations about safety for sex workers, and that's how you can support the bill. The bill is HB 3815, I believe, and start having real conversations about sex and sex work.
All right. Thank you, Raina. I really appreciate that. So as we wrap up, just a little housekeeping really quickly. Just want to give you guys an announcement about the Mind, Body, and Soul Health and Wellness Circle, which brings free mental health, spiritual, and physical wellness services for Black, gay, bisexual, and other same gender-loving men. Join us for free fitness, dance, yoga, and cooking classes, as well as free acupuncture and massage therapy 6 days a week. Every Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., MBS offers meal prep Mondays led by Chef Black and Chef Nick. This month, in honor of Black History Month, every Monday will be a variety of soul food options. Just call us at 773-277-2291 to register. Also, MBS will start offering facials and massages on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think I'm going to grab me one of those. Pass it over to Onyx.
We are grateful for Chef Blake and the work that him and Chef Nick are doing. Also, we want to just remind everyone that February 7th was National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day. It was to bring awareness around disproportionate impact of HIV in Black communities. Remember, you need to know your status and make sure you get tested. Look at the screen. Just scan it, get a toy box. It's amazing things in the toy box, I will say that. This weekend, I competed for Leatherman of Color, and a lot of things in my box, that I auctioned off this weekend was stuff that I got from my box.
All right, all right.
Just a shameless plug.
All right, all right, all right. And if you're here in person, remember you can get tested for free at Project Vida. Walk in Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you want that toy box delivered, just sign up and your free HIV test sign up for your free HIV test, call with your results, and it's on the way. Test, play, and repeat.
That was an amazing show. Sex, work, and power. A huge thanks to Raina. You've been amazing. And we want to thank my co-host, King Vibes.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you all for tuning in and sharing your questions. Remember, when it comes to your body, your rights, and your choices, knowledge is power. And as always, stay curious, and we'll catch you the next time on Toy With Me. See you in March on YouTube.
Adios,
Peace
adios,
out.
Adios.